specific answers to stuff. It's just, at some point, I don't know, there's a bridge in between that isn't, like, communicated as well. And so, like, for example, like, their steps are, like, make a major motion picture, and then have everyone, like, world peace, and then we start. Like, there's a lot of details in between there.
Right.
But getting from now to there
Right.
is the hard part that isn't as detailed, as opposed to what's
the city itself, the idea,
yeah, like the future
formation
itself.
and
They have that all figured out, and
Right.
it's great. Like every single little detail, but then going from now to the future is what they haven't solidified as much.
Right.
And so I think that's the difficulty in the conversation with the Futures Project. And so I've just lately just been calling, like, referring to it, but like going like ideal society, because that is an ideal society for me, and getting there is the hard part. And I think getting there is a much more long-winded process than making a movie and expecting everyone to agree with it. Like, it takes, like, an evolution of...
You haven't convinced me yet.
And
I don't want to kill you. And there are people that want to kill you that you also have to convince, and that's kind of a... That's a little difficult. I mean, most people can't agree on, like, what kind of pizza to get.
Yeah, and it's not so much an agreement on that, but there's also social agreements that we have that we do agree on, and we don't realize that we agree on. So,
you mean just general, like, ways society conducts itself?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so no one had to tell you at some point that, like, you exchange money or services for goods. It like,
you didn't have to.
It's been around.
We've got this thing. It's called money. You can exchange it for everything else.
It's been around long enough to where
it's so ingrained.
They just agree that that's how it goes. So I mean, it can work that same way. We can agree that, this is how we should implement our resources. This is how we should, but the hard part is getting there. And so, for me at least, I think the largest way of getting there is education. I think I had mentioned this before, but like, it's one thing to be educated in that. Yeah.
We're on. Okay, okay.
It's one thing to be educated in the physics or whatever. It's another thing to be educated in that, like, the way that you treat a person affects their psychological blah, blah, blah. Like, people's knowledge affects their behavior and affects the decisions that they make in society and within one another.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Because I also sort of think that it's not necessarily knowledge, but also people's own ideas already can influence those things.
Yeah, but there are things that are false, and there are things that are closer to truth.
Right, right.
Of course, we don't know that many absolute truths, if any, but, like, we have enough knowledge to show that these things are consistently true.
They're at least true for the moment.
And the things that are consistently true should have much more weight in society and ideas than those that are just stupid.
Yeah. Definitely.
And that's what should, and that's what I mean by education. Not just like going to school, but just the things that people know and understand. It's not taught in a school in Alabama that black people are inferior, but it is a part of someone in the KKK's education per se to be like, oh yeah, white people are great. Like, and that sort of education is sort of what leads to their behavior. And so it's not just a school teaching, but it's also a cultural and social education.
So you're kind of throwing knowledge under the banner of everything.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were referring to like just simply facts and, you know, like actual like quantifiable data, not like literally what you know about the world and what you already conceive and whatnot. Okay.
Yeah, but
that makes more sense.
But that's also quantifiable. You can either say that white people are superior because God wants it to be so, and that's a truth claim.
Right.
That's a claim you're making about the world that we live in that you are expecting to have effect in the real world.
Right.
But you can also take quantifiable data and show, oh, these are measures of white people, these are measures of Hispanic people, these are measures of Asian people, and what shows is the data says these people are good at this and this and this.
Right.
In this moment. And that says a lot more than just saying because God says so or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there's the provable aspect of it, which is definitely nice, or at least the arguable aspect of it. You
and
can't
the
just say,
information,
like, my God says so I'm the best.
And that's the problem a lot nowadays. Not so much even with, you know, Christianity, but like the way that a lot of Islamic countries, and there are Islamic countries that aren't as like violent or suppressive or whatever, but like if the ideas say that, you know, being gay incurs the damnation of God and his wrath or whatever, like we can show information that says otherwise.
Right. Well, I don't know in terms of damnation. I don't know if anyone knows who's getting damned or who
but
doesn't.
Like,
but yeah, people, no, I get what you mean. Like, yeah.
And so having a value in information, having a value of that being part of our culture,
right,
rather than having a outdated system of like because God says so. And so, sort of that kind of education.
Okay. So it's so are you arguing for a more like secular kind of society, more or less, that values
not even so much secular. I'm just using the God as an example, but like there's other ideas that
they're just false.
That are just false that we just hold to be true just because we haven't thought past it or haven't thought to research it. Cats being funny. But I don't know, I think that there's like a social perception of what humans are like or what certain cultures are like, and some of those things may be false. For example, and I have mentioned this before, but like with Sex at Dawn, it challenges the social narrative that says that humans are by nature monogamous. And what it says is, hey, the information indicates otherwise.
Right.
And so we have this like culture built around monogamy, but whenever, marriage fails due to a husband cheating or whatever, just going, you are a horrible person, get out of here. It's like, well, yeah, they betrayed the contract, but also there's hundreds of thousands of years of human development that is kind of hard to counteract, especially whenever you're trying to live against your hundred of thousands of years of evolution or whatever.
Okay.
And so those ideas challenge the way that we act in society.
Right. Okay. So, what do you think about things like not necessarily just monogamy, but in general, like things that very obviously kind of go against the human grain? You know, like deciding not to engage with multiple people. You know,
I mean, there's positives and negatives, and there's also just like what works now.
Okay.
Because that's
you're more
the
situational.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there may be an ideal, but we can't live like hunter-gatherers anymore. There's just not enough space and resources. And
just you wait till the bombs fall, sir.
But Chris Ryan says this a lot, that we live in a zoo now.
Yeah.
We live in a version of what humans should live in.
Okay.
And we can choose to live in the Calcutta Zoo, which is just like small cages
and sad,
like sad monkey and sad lion in a small cage, or we can live in the San Diego Zoo, which is like tries to adapt their environment to their ideal environment to make it as comfortable as possible. It's not going to be like it was for them in the wild. We can't live in the wild anymore, but we should at least try and make it as fitting to where we're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so that applies to a lot of other things in that, you know, we can, or even social perception of like, you know, yes, we have monogamy and we have God, and then we have, I think one that we could totally get into is that the idea of like patriotism is, I think it's dangerous.
Okay. This will be an interesting one here. Okay.
And that the idea of like dying for your country is preposterous, honestly. Like, because you're dying because some corporation needed money from this country over here, and so we're sending soldiers to deal with that situation, and now you're just dying because someone said so. But we paint this picture around it in order to make it more acceptable and make it to where you're more willing to die for your country.
Well, you know, definitely a couple of things there for sure.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I think the recent, you know, if you do think it's, you know, the wars were just fought for the benefit of corporations, which I would say, you know, there's definitely some valid points to be made on that, as far as, you know, the willingness for us to go to war so these companies can make money. Sure, but I don't think that was necessarily how it was in the past.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely wasn't in the past why people went to war. I mean, World War II definitely was not at all a war about corporations making money and, you know, getting a benefit from directly corporations.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's always been a struggle for resources and a struggle for power.
Right. Well, and I would also like to say, I mean, I definitely see what you mean, and I can see how you would boil down, you know, the end result to like power and resources. But I would also like to say I think there is a self-determination factor there, which I guess you could boil down to power on one end. But I also think people's desire for self-determination also fuels the want to, I guess, be patriotic or go to war.
Yeah, but there's a want to be, a want to have self-determination, but it doesn't mean that you have to dress in a uniform and go to the front lines and be shot. That doesn't affect your self-determination. What does affect your self-determination is how you act in society.
No. I mean, as a group, as a state, the desire for you to be free of another country's whims could spur that kind of patriotism.
Yeah.
I think that's... I didn't mean, like, as the individual, like, I will join the military so I can self-determine.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that doesn't make sense, but I mean, like, from a national perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What are nations, though?
Very large tribes.
What's the point anymore?
The point anymore? Again, it's
to be different because lines?
It's no. I think there's very real reasons to place lines.
Such as?
Just differences in ideals, for sure. North and South Korea, probably the perfect example of why there should be lines. Because, if you throw those kind of ideologies together, they will kill each other. Those lines divide them in such a way where, yeah, they might not be particularly friendly with each other, they might not want to deal with each other, however, they're not going to go all out and just murder each other, and there won't be anyone left.
But how many people in North Korea actually agree with North Korea's ideas? And how many of them are just hostages inside their own country?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's absolutely people who are dissidents and have different ideas. However, after being in North Korea for so long, I am sure many of them are brainwashed to the point of not understanding what's going on, where they legitimately adopt the ideology wholesale.
Okay, so the reasoning for separating countries is because people are brainwashed into wanting to separate into countries.
No. It's because one would override the other, possibly. And again, it would end up with the slaughter of thousands, millions of people. It's like the little... I don't know if you, had to live with your... in the same room as your brothers growing up.
Definitely.
But I'm sure, you've always seen, the little, goofy, tape line across the room. You stay on your side of the room, I'll stay on my side of the room.
Yeah.
You do whatever on that end, and I'll do whatever here. Don't cross my line.
And then once we reach a certain point of maturity, we realize how much that's bullshit.
Yeah. But then... the other thing, too, is if you have a child, a.k.a. North Korea, freaking out and screaming at the top of the lungs, you might want to shut the door on them and say, I don't want to deal with that right now.
Why not raise the child to not throw a tantrum?
Well, in literal terms, because it would lead to the death of millions of people, and you don't necessarily want to do that.
Well, yeah, but this goes back to what I'm saying about the ideas drive what we do in society. And so if we are more educated towards a more correct answer, then these ideas that are, humans just need to be subjugated by kings and leaders and No, that's just a bad idea, and we don't have any room for bad ideas.
No, but I think lines definitely make sense, though. And that's the point, is you don't want that spilling over. You don't want North Korea's awfulness to spill over into South Korea at all.
We don't want bad ideas.
Right, so that's why we quarantine it and make sure no one messes with it ever. Because that's a whole ton of just awful. thrown into one place.
Is it impossible to change people's minds?
No. It's not impossible to change their minds, but I would want to make clear that stuff that's going on in North Korea, it's 1984. Like, it's the Orwellian nightmare realized.
Yeah.
It's legitimately, like, that bad. Which makes it ridiculously difficult to fix that. The only way that you could possibly fix that would be through their leaders, which are also insane.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully, at some point they'll get a rational human being at the top, and there could, at some point in time, be a more thorough and fair exchange of ideas.
There's a lot of possibilities, and yes, it would be very difficult. But giving up and just throwing the line and just letting it be over there is childish, and
I don't think so. I think it's pragmatic.
Lazy. It's lazy.
We had the conversation beforehand where you told me human beings are lazy, which is the root of why we do all things.
Nature is not necessarily good or bad. It just is.
Right. But you said we're lazy.
Yes.
So I think that's, pragmatism in a way is laziness, but it does have a logic to it. Mm-hmm. There is a logic to let's keep the bad ideas on that side so we don't get screwed up in the process.
Yeah.
Because, opening those things up, I think you have to admit that that's a very real danger that could hurt millions.
It's incredibly difficult. And we've done incredibly difficult things, and we can continue to triumph over incredibly difficult things.
Which, again, so if we're on this subject here, I'll bring this back to patriotism.
Fun.
I'll bring this all around. So, you want to do incredible things. Mm-hmm. You want to do hard things. Mm-hmm. And I think at times that requires war. It's not good. It's not anything that you want to happen, but sometimes that's absolutely what's necessary.
Doing incredible things does not...
Not all incredible things.
Hold on.
I'm not...
Doing incredible things does not mean you have to unite around a country. Doing incredible things can be uniting around the idea of doing incredible things. You don't have to be united just because we're from the same place. You can be united because we share these ideas. And that goes beyond. It goes
beyond.
Past. There's a podcast I listen to, and they say beyond, and anytime anyone says beyond in a conversation, you have to say beyond. But
yeah.
And so it goes past just where you're from.
Oh yeah,
it goes past like your skin color. It's just we're all human beings trying to not die on this rock flying through the galaxy.
Right, and we all have extremely different ways of doing that. And many of those ideas contradict and cannot coexist in any meaningful way.
And some of those ideas are more right than others.
Absolutely. No. We definitely agree on that.
And then we as a whole should just we should value and move towards the more right idea.
I am in agreement with you, but I think, again, for probably very different reasons. But yeah, no, definitely.
And so the struggle there shouldn't be kill those with different ideas. It should be try and unite and work towards a whole of a greater idea. This is the collectivism, individualism thing. Yeah.
Which, did you want to get into collectivism versus individualism now, or did you want to continue this tract here?
But the thing is, it merges well enough.
Okay.
You can still share in good ideas and still be an individual.
Absolutely.
It's not like you just agree on everything and just become a big hive mind.
Right. Right.
But you can still agree that, hey, everyone is an equal and everyone should be able to do the same things, and I want my hair to look like this or something. Like, you can still share in good ideas but still be different people.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Again, as on the individual plane of thinking, I am in agreement here.
Yeah, and so that's not the form of individualism that I think is harmful. The form of individualism that could be harmful is the form that values the individual much more so to where it hurts everyone else and then themselves.
Okay, so I'm gonna need some clarification before. I guess in your terms, what would define that kind of harmful action? So I can speak accurately over your point, because I could be completely wrong.
Thinking of an example, I guess that could apply nowadays is that bank executives making decisions and then screwing over the rest of the banks and then ending up with more money on their side, and the rest of the 99% ends up with their houses foreclosed. And then, they valued the individual much more so than the collective.
Okay. And I think this probably has one of the fundamental differences that we see things as is I do believe that those sort of crises also very much so ride on the back of government bailing them out. The fact that you can screw up that much as your own business, your own.
Screw up.
Oh no! A lot of them did.
Purpose.
Right, because we were right behind them and like, oh yeah, we don't want this to go bad, so here's money. Here's to fix the issue, and it's like, no, that just encourages them to do the same thing. Because if you're playing poker without any risk, you're gonna gamble everything, and that's basically what they have. They have no risk to themselves because we allow it.
Yeah.
Because we allow it. Because as a society we say, yes, let's bail all of these guys who have just totally screwed us over. Let's bail them out. And that gives them essentially permission, not literal permission, and I don't think it's right, to take those risks that they cannot do or shouldn't do in a normal circumstance.
Yeah, but them as an individual valued themselves and disregarded everything else in order to make more money in that way.
Right. Well, I guess it's again because I feel like it's the collectivist, like, we can't let that thing go bad, so we'll have to bail them out. I think that's a collectivist idea at work there.
I think that's silly, because they should be held responsible for their actions. And if they screwed everything over, then they should pay for it, right?
I guess it depends on the circumstance. I don't know a ton of the nitty-gritty inside stuff in that sort of
There's a documentary about it called Inside Job. It's a fun and very angering documentary.
Yeah.
But basically, they kept taking out very bad loans and just kept giving it out because it was in their favor to give out those loans, and then as soon as the market shifted, no one pays their loans, everybody defaults, and so the banks go bankrupt.
Right. Which again, I do believe we've allowed them to get that big. I know a lot of people are against, like, the big companies and whatnot, which I totally understand. Like, I am not in favor of the oligarchy that we have now.
But I'm saying that that's an example of the valuing of the individual is much greater than that of the valuing of the collective, and so that's where it's harmful.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get you. Okay.
And then to go, well, since the individual did something bad, then everyone else has to pay for it? No. If you're going to go with the individual, go with the individual all the way and go, the individual fucked this up, the individual has to pay for it.
Which I'm fine with, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, at what point should the individual be allowed to make that bad decision?
So, you're talking corporation, or you're talking individual? Like the people who bought homes, like way bigger homes than they should have ever got.
Well, yes, they also made very bad decisions.
So, that's the clarification I was wanting, because I think there is a, not saying that it's at all necessarily, like, the bank shouldn't have decided to lend that kind of money to those kinds of people, but at the same time, I think it takes a certain amount of self-awareness to realize, I can't afford this house.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous for me to even think about.
But it's still a value of the individual to go, well, I want a really big house, and I have the self-determination to do so with this stupid loan.
Yeah, no. So because I think the big thing there would be, I guess the selfishness part that we kind of perceive maybe a bit differently. It's not in your self-interest to screw something up that you can't afford. Doing something like that. You were saying, like, you have the self-determination to get a house, then, like, by all means, get a killer house, but live within your means so you're not, like, about to die if you do something a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
There's that self-responsibility aspect there. I'm not saying the banks didn't screw up, but I want to say I think it is also on those people as well.
Yeah, but it's the idea of valuing the individual and the, like, grandiosity of the self or whatever of, I want a really big house. And that idea led to them making bad decisions. It was the value of the individual that led them to their own demise.
Yeah, well, I think I'm all for people getting big houses. I'm totally 100% there, but I think it's, within your means is what you should live by. So if you're well within your means and you can buy a big house, go for it. But if you can't, you should have the self-understanding to realize that this isn't a good idea and maybe you should calm down. And then attempt to make more money and end up getting a big house through a different means.
Yeah. You want an educated individual.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, I think, like, it's crazy to imagine that we have not had any sort of, like, economic, education at all.
Probably on purpose.
You could say so. But yeah, no, I mean, it's ridiculous that, like, in a school system where everyone is semi-educated, that there has been absolutely no common sense education as far as finance goes.
Yeah.
I remember in high school we got that, like, so finance might be important, let's make you take that class, and it was just a complete blow-off, and it's like, you should have been growing up with this your whole life.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's what I'm saying, that the value of the individual supersedes the value of the collective. And so, at some point, when does the collective have to jump in and be like, hey, we all need you as an individual to not do that?
I think 99% of the time, I think the individuals got the priority over the collective. Pretty much 99% of the time, you have to really be doing something pretty bad to justify you stepping in and saying, no, this is just a bad idea. Like, it takes a lot to end up doing that. Because I think you end up, inevitably, by doing those sort of things, end up punishing all of the individuals.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're limiting that. Like, for instance, everyone's for free speech as long as everyone agrees.
That's not... I think that's a bad value to have.
Well, okay, go ahead.
You should be able to say whatever you want.
Right.
Even if people disagree.
Right.
And
no,
then...
I'm on that value as well.
Yeah. And then if you say something stupid...
You get shot down by...
Well, yeah, that's on you. Not literally shot down.
Yeah, no, like, you... The group is like, that's a bad idea. Let's stop that.
Yeah. And so that's where, yes, the individual determination goes into the collective. But, yes, the individual being free to say anything is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would absolutely hold that value as well. But I know there's plenty of people who disagree.
Yeah. If you've been listening to this podcast, Terry and I talked about, like, social justice and all that junk.
Oh, yeah. I can always get in on that if you were wanting. I think they're absolutely against free speech.
Yeah. But anyways...
A little bit off topic, but yeah.
I think that separating the individual from the collective is... Like, there is no one without the other.
There can be one without the other. You can't have a collective of the individual, however, you can have an individual of the individual. If that makes sense.
One more time.
You can't have an individual collective, but you can have an individual. Like, one person can't be a collective,
But you have a collective of individuals.
Right.
But it's just that, like, whenever you have a bunch of individuals, you finally have a collective. But the individuals still make up a part of that collective. And so those two aren't separate.
Okay.
Yeah. We're all a part of the earth, and however individual you want to get, you are still on this damn planet, whether you like it or not.
Just wait till I get to Mars, man.
You're still a part of the collective.
And then I can be the individualist individual.
You're still...
Right, no. I was just screwing around.
Of the universe.
Yeah.
And that's... get into, like, way bigger, like, Buddhist, the leaf is in you, and I am the leaf and the sun, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, like, it still relates in that, yes, you can have individuals be individuals, but you're still a part of the collective, whether you like it or not.
So, because I feel... like, the best functioning society would be one in which everyone takes care of themselves. Within their means. Yeah, so I think, the collective, in general, the collectivist idea is that, we're all in some way responsible for someone else. Mm-hmm. We're all in a group, so we should all take care of each other, et cetera, et cetera. But... my thinking is that if you prioritize yourself in a truly good way, which is an important piece in that, is you don't do stupid things. Like, again, I think I said it last time, but, like, doing a ton of drugs is not a good idea. It's not in your self-interest. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So, it's not helping your life at all. And so I think... by each person taking care of themselves first, that releases the weight of the collective. So if I worry about what it takes for me to get food, then you don't have to worry if I'm fed or not.
Yeah.
Because I'm taking care of it on my own. Like, I have decided and I have chosen to take care of myself in that way.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about me dying in the street somewhere now. Because I was just like, I'm not going to eat today. You know? And I think the general attitude of that, of taking care of yourself in that way, is very good. It releases that weight. You don't have to worry about that anymore, and people can stick to themselves more without sacrificing.
Sure.
So less people are sacrificing their time, their effort, and their energy and resources into going to someone who isn't doing those things. And I think the biggest weakness of collectivism is that eventually people catch on that other people will be taking care of you, and you end up doing nothing because, as we've spoken about before, people are lazy.
Yes.
And, you know, if you're not of the mindset that you wish to help the whole, and you realize, like, hey, if I don't go to work, I'll be okay completely, maybe I won't go to work. Sure. Because I feel like not doing that. And it's kind of like have you heard of, like, the tragedy of the commons? I think it's very much so that, but you're making the entire planet into the scenario of the tragedy of the commons.
The difference is technology.
Because,
because it essentially goes into, like, capitalism and, like, communism. And so the problem that communism had is that the people would work for the people, and then as soon as the people realized that other people were working for them, they just decided not to work, and then nobody worked.
Right.
That's exactly what you're saying.
Not to interrupt you there, but just kind of a side note story. I had a professor, and she was teaching in Germany for a while, and it was after Germany ended up becoming one Germany.
Yeah.
And there was an East German who was working, and he painted houses under communist rule. Like, his whole thing was, I just paint houses.
Yeah.
And he was mad that he had to work a full day because he would just go somewhere, paint a house for like 4 hours, and then just go home. It's just kind of crazy. He was like, what do you mean? Like, I've got to stay here all 8 hours? Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a total, like, difference of ideology and just completely different way of thinking. But yeah.
But it's also a dissonance in the value, because Marx himself valued work more than anything else, and it's the work that, like, and so if the ideas would have transferred accurately, then it would have been, oh, I'm glad to work 8 hours because it's the work that runs the machine or whatever, you know?
Right, but I think and that's what I think the difference between individualism versus collectivism kind of really shows its teeth is, there's not that immediate payoff. I mean, people are smart, you know, first off, but there's only so much that they're willing to just give to whoever out of the charity of their heart. You know, I think that for the most part, you know, it's hard to connect for an individual within a collective that you stamping sheet metal all day long is really helping your nation out and making it a wonderful place to live. You know, like, I guess communism, I don't want to pull, like, on paper communism, but, like, in a metaphorical ideal communist nation, everyone could work and improve the society around them through mutual labor. And
if every piece of machine is doing what it should.
Right, you know, and that's the idea is, like, everyone's got a, you know, not a half-painted house, but a full-painted house in whatever color they wish, and, you know, everyone's got this great stuff because the guy in the sheet metal factory is doing his work.
Yes, and you're right. Every piece...
Right.
If you are expecting people to do it, every piece is not going to do what it should.
And I think the rate of failure is much higher in collectivist societies than in individualist societies. So, like, that whole, I've got to work to do these sort of things.
I'd have to check the statistics on that, especially regarding, like, Scandinavian, like, more socialized countries and seeing how...
Yeah. What's the... And another... I think this is more an issue with... because I know your ideology isn't necessarily what you'd call socialist. Mm-hmm. You're more just collectivist, and socialism is under the collectivist ideology banner. It's just a different flavor of it, so I understand you there. But there are... I think there's like a state-run car factory in France. It starts with like an R. I'm terrible with it. They make awful cars. Just terrible cars. It exists because the state perpetuates it. Mm-hmm. They make awful cars. Mm-hmm. No one buys the cars. No one wants the cars. If you look at the lot for the cars, not one of them is from the factory that they work in. And like half the time people are just like sitting in the lunchroom doing nothing.
Yeah. And that's because they're forced to do so. That's why the cars suck.
What do you mean
Well, like, I mean, if they had a reason to want to make good cars, then they would do so.
Right.
But they're forced to make cars, and so they're like, ugh, fuck.
Well, no one's forced.
Shitty car.
No one's forcing them to do anything.
State run.
It's a state run, but everyone could leave the factory and find other private employment. I mean, no one has to work at USPS. People choose to do so because it's a job and they want money.
Yeah.
But there's no motivation for them to make a good car because it's a job to them. It's just, I'll show up. There's no motivation for me to make the best car out there. So I'll just show up and shoot the shit for a while.
Yeah.
So, sorry for cursing. I don't know if you care or not.
I've already done
okay, I didn't notice. But, I think that's kind of the difference is there's not that direct correlation between I am doing something good for the whole. It's hard to motivate yourself in that system, whereas I think in a individualist society... If it directly benefits you, if I work harder, I get more benefit. Yeah. Therefore, I'm motivated to make a better product, work harder, and put out more. And society benefits as a whole because you get more stuff. And stuff is nice.
I find that to be a change in values. Because, yes, right now we value, like, oh, I do a thing and I get a thing. Like, immediate...
Yeah.
But there are people who value, like, oh, I'm just doing this thing, and I know that it's helping everyone else, and that's why I enjoy doing it. And those people just value helping everything else, regardless of whether it comes back to them at all or not. They just like the idea of it, and they value it that much.
Right.
And that's a good thing, because you get a good person doing a good thing.
Well, I have no arguments against good people doing good things. Like, cool, do that. But I think it's unreasonable to imagine that everyone would be on board with that. I think, I know people dislike the idea of, like, appealing to the lowest common denominator. But I think it does motivate the most people to work in their self-interest. Like, if you know that you will see a check at the end of the week, and based on your performance, if you sell the most cars or, whatever, what have you, you will get a bigger check. That will motivate people more than, like, this abstract of idea of, like, I'm going to do good work today because I wish to do better. Yeah,
Is that not already the idea behind religion?
Yeah, no. I'm saying people are really bad at their religion. Well, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but a lot of people follow a religion. And so, like, it's not like you are incapable of getting people to believe in an abstract idea.
Right, but at the... like, for instance, I'm not saying, like, every, like, mission trip is, like, not effective in any sort of way. But I know a lot of mission trips are, like, so we're going to go to some third world country for a while, and we're going to do all these great things. And then you have a bunch of, like, teenagers show up for a week, and they hammer a house for a bit. Yeah. And then they're like, I am fulfilled now. Yeah. I have done my purpose. Yeah. And it's like, you didn't really, like, if you really wanted to, you'd stay there and, like, make sure everything grew up. And not saying that that doesn't do good, because over time, you get 1,000 of those, like, wishful, fulfilling kids to go out there and do it. You'll make a difference, but it's not the same as someone staying there and making a big difference.
That's a failure in the transmission of the idea that actually doing something good actually means actually doing something good.
Right. But at the same time, I think someone motivated by money to build a house, they're going to build it a whole lot quicker. And they're going to put in a lot more work and effort into it by doing so.
And again, I just think that that's just where our values are now. And where our values could be.
Well, and I guess my point is necessarily why change it? Could you see that kind of individualist society succeeding?
No, this is what we have. This is why it's not working.
I don't think so. I think it was working because, again, I think this might be a difference in idea, but I think the interference of the government is actually the thing that's messing this up. We've kind of bastardized the capitalist system with government. We've kind of like made them have a baby, and it's turned into an oligarchy. A lot of these things that people are doing and a lot of the things that are bad are a result of them being able to influence law, which gives them a lot more power than if it was almost kind of like a separation of like church and state, but more of a separation of economy versus government.
Sure, but if the person seeking money wants to pollute,
right? No. That's
where the government steps in.
Right. And that's fine. That's not necessarily.
But that is the government influencing the economy.
Not in a. I think there's a distinction to be made in a direct fashion versus there's a looseness to be had there, like. And you could argue that that's the collective group, you're killing people because you're throwing terrible things into the water. You shouldn't do that because it directly harms someone else.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It directly harms an individual.
Right. It harms everyone. It's just bad, So I think that is a fine example of something being regulated to benefit everyone. That's an acceptable thing. But there's absolutely the fact that and I want to say that that's kind of a separation thing. Like, it's not like government getting in bed with a company. It could be like, hey, so there's this really arbitrary kind of pollution sort of thing, kind of, and this other car company makes a lot of that. Can you regulate it so that car company gets screwed over? Because that definitely happens,
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that ends up, I think, messing with the economy and messing with kind of everyone in general. You can't necessarily have that individualist thing when you have the weight of government behind your corporation. That's when you start getting in trouble.
But then is there a way to have that balance out to where the economy is not influenced by the government, but the economy also has to, or the government also has to protect the individual and the collective from the economic things that could cause harm to everyone?
I don't think that necessarily the government is responsible for the economy inherently.
No.
I don't think it's necessarily its obligation to make sure the wheels are running smooth. I don't think it's necessarily the greaser of the gears. I think its essential role is to basically make sure that people are not hurting other people directly. or through their actions, like if a company pollutes a lot and people start getting cancers and all that.
Yeah.
That's a very bad thing, and that should be stopped. Mm-hmm. I'm not arguing that at all. But I don't think, like, whether the economy gets kind of a little bit low or a certain company makes mistakes and it goes under, I don't think it's necessarily the responsibility of the government to make sure that that company survives or that those other people find employment.
Sure, but then at what point does a corporation get too big and then just has a monopoly on everything? Is the government responsible for that too, or just let it go?
I don't think the way that I've heard it phrased is, if there really was a total monopoly over something, like if there was truly a complete monopoly, again, without the influence of government interfering and basically being in bed with the company, that monopoly would be so good that you wouldn't be complaining about it at all.
Yes.
I think there's the perception.
And then they can do whatever they want.
No. There's still the pollution laws. There's still the things.
I know, but let's say Apple just owns the monopoly on cell phones,
right?
Which they basically do.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, you have an Android, but
no. Actually, no. The rest of the world actually uses Android. It's only the U.S. that value. It's the posh.
Regardless of my
not to break down,
but let's just say that Apple has the monopoly on cell phones. And so then just basically everyone buys an Apple phone. Yes, everyone has an iPhone. And then Apple decides, all right, due to blah, 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 your internet speed is now half.
I don't think they would do that. And there's a very good reason why. Is because there are other people who also have money, who are also invested in getting themselves and their companies more money, that as soon as they're like, well, we're putting your internet speed at half, as soon as that happens, well, Google's going to show up, or what have you, and they're going to say, you know what, I see an opportunity here, because they have weakened themselves to that point. Yeah, but I'm going to make a product that is better and break their monopoly.
Yeah, but if it's a truly, like, giant monopoly, Google doesn't have the resources, because nobody else makes cell phones. Nobody. Because there's no point Apple makes cell phones.
Right, but you understand that kind of was a thing for a long time with Apple. Like, legitimately speaking, they were the first, there was BlackBerry, sure, but that was more like a personal, like the PA computers. Yeah. It was more of a PA computer. It was kind of smart, but it didn't have that smartphone concept that we have now. Apple was the first to create the true smartphone. And Android came along, and everyone's like, "What?" I remember thinking, like, who would want an Android phone? Yeah. Like, this thing's got to be garbage. And now I have an Android phone, and I would use it all the time. And they broke that.
Yes,
they weren't forced into making.
But it wasn't a true monopoly in the hypothetical situation that I'm presenting here. In that, other people made cell phones, and so yes, you had like Apple this high in the bar graph and everyone else was a little bit lower in the bar graph, but like in the monopoly that I'm saying, like of the bar graph of people that make cell phones, it's Apple. And so for anyone else to just go, ooh, here's my chance, they'd have to build up and make, like, they don't know how to make cell phones.
Okay, here's my few arguments here on this one. One, there's a lot more rich people than just Apple. Steve Jobs is not the only millionaire. I guess he might have been a billionaire. I'm not aware of that or not. But, there's companies such as Microsoft, such as Google. There's other companies out there, and even companies that have nothing to do with cell phones, that have plenty of money to launch a competitive product against Apple as soon as they start screwing over their customer base. So they are able to step in at that point. It was Android's Google. Google saw an opportunity.
Yes.
They struck, and they've made plenty of money making that cell phone carrier. It takes another company
Yes.
Of around that size. It's not just Apple who owns like literally everything.
Yes, but then what starts happening once a monopoly gets large enough is that it starts acquiring other companies.
Yeah.
And so then, once the company starts acquiring all other companies, then there are no other competitors because they've just acquired
Don't sell
anyone out.
That... I mean, and that doesn't take into account innovation. One of the... I've kind of been getting into objectivist thought a little bit more, and I'm definitely going to have to read Atlas Shrugged for sure.
It's long, but
I'll
try it.
I'll probably just hate myself for like 3 months and then just be done with it. But okay, one of the examples that I've heard is so there's Rockefeller. He had the supposed monopoly on oil products. Anything involving gas was pretty much Rockefeller.
Yeah,
and so kerosene lamps were a huge thing. Everyone had kerosene lamps. Everyone used Rockefeller kerosene. So, what no one would ever take into account is that some random dude in a laboratory is about to smash every kerosene lamp product out there, and that was Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb.
Yeah,
out of nowhere, this guy just pops up and just. Nope, kerosene's gone pretty much overnight.
Yeah.
That doesn't take into account innovation and the fact that monopolies are inevitably impossible to maintain due to the march of progress and innovation.
But it still allows this giant company, and yes, even whenever innovation happens, this just massive monopoly can just acquire the new innovation, take it for themselves, gain all the profits from it, and then they just...
But Rockefeller didn't.
It all.
He didn't start getting into light bulbs or anything like that. His money was in oil.
It.
Maybe. And why would you necessarily, if you have that kind of product, why would you do something like that? Like, for instance, again, if you want to go back to Apple at one point wasn't the giant corporation we know and love. It was, I say that sarcastically sometimes. It was a tiny company with a few employees that absolutely changed the game.
Yeah.
IBM, I don't know what other stuff. There was plenty of other computer companies, but IBM was the monster in the room. And Apple went in and smashed it.
Yeah, but IBM wasn't
with innovation
as large as this hypothetical monster that I'm proposing.
Well, and I'm saying I don't know if necessarily that monster has ever or will ever exist. I think we allow companies to have more sway over us by letting them get in bed with government now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The fact that they can push legislation through in ways that they couldn't beforehand is a very bad thing, and that's what I'm against.
Try looking up how many of these major companies are actually under the umbrella of a larger corporation.
Oh yeah, no. There's plenty. Yeah.
Because there's basically like 4 or something. Like, and I don't know the specifics because they're like so obscure, but they own everything.
You talking like okay, like Dove soap is underneath Heckler and Gamble or whatever those. Yeah, Procter and Gamble.
But like Monsanto owns just like this giant umbrella.
It's a conglomerate.
Of products. Yeah.
Well, you realize that would be a lot more visible to the public if the monopoly laws weren't there. Like, you would see that it's all under this company, and it wouldn't be this weird like feeder system of we'll invest in this company, and it's kind of like behind closed doors. That would be much more in the open.
Yeah, but even still, once they sort of own all of that, any form of innovation that comes up, they can acquire it.
Again, not necessarily. There are plenty of rich people.
You're counting on the people not selling out. You're counting on blah blah blah. And
no, and it's true. So there are absolutely companies out there that exist that are not under the corporate umbrella and that are fairly large. That absolutely exists. Mm-hmm. And they can survive if they wish, or they can sell their company at a price that they want.
Yeah.
That's fine. Mm-hmm. I don't see the issue with somebody saying, like, yeah, I just want to make money. Here's my company.
Yeah, but that's the motivation in our society. Money.
Yeah, which I'm absolutely okay with.
Which just leads to the innovation would be sought out for money, giant corporation buys the innovation for money, mm-hmm. giant monopoly.
But again, you have to see that that's not inherently bad if they get more things. It's not necessarily bad. I think the issue is when, again, you start getting more into the fact that they have sway in Washington now. That's more scary to me. The what we have right now is a lot more scary to me than I think the idea of
but again, the corporation having control over all of these products still affects everything else.
Actually, go ahead. What's wrong with that?
The corporation just going, hey, let's just cut your internet speed in half, or hey, we've been reading all your texts or whatever because we just have them all.
You're acting like Google doesn't do that already right now.
But that's exactly it. Like, they are a monarch that just has the power to do whatever they want because people have their product. And then they don't have a choice because they're the ones that control that product.
Yeah, but you can, and again, you can come back with a higher quality product, and
not if it's high enough quality and you don't want to be acquired.
Yeah, no, that exists. I'm telling you that
the motivation is money here.
Yeah.
And if you're acquired, you're making so much more money than struggling so hard to fight this 10-ton gorilla.
But what if you can break that 10-ton gorilla? What if your innovation is so good, you can break the gorilla?
If it's there and the company didn't acquire it first.
Yeah, and I'm telling you that happens plenty of times. That's what's led the general innovation of modern mm-hmm. society. Is that need to compete and that need to consistently innovate. I think that's kind of the whole idea there.
Yeah. Okay, one more thing. We had mentioned that Marxism and the expecting people to be that part of the well-oiled machine. But then I had said technology is what sort of makes the rest of that work, is that you don't need the lazy dude who paints houses. Mm. You need a robot that paints houses. Or houses that just have, like, whatever in their walls or whatever that makes them change color. Like, technology is what gets rid of the things that humans don't need or want to do.
I think that's wishful thinking, to be quite honest with you. I'm not saying that we can't, reduce those sorts of labors, or that, there will, be technology to fix, just kind of crap jobs.
Mm-hmm. It's already there.
Depending. I mean, there's definitely reasons why we haven't switched already.
Because the economy depends on people working shit jobs to get money to buy the shit things. As soon as automation takes off, the people with the small jobs can't afford to buy the small products anymore because their jobs have been taken over by automation.
Right. No, but I think I think there will always be crappy labor to be done. Yeah. No. I mean, sometimes it's I think sometimes it's easier to just do it yourself instead of having some kind of specialized machine to work for you. You know, like, it's probably easier to get up and clean your bedroom or something than have a specialized robot that you've paid thousands, I guess in your metaphorical society, without money, but has taken a lot of resources to make. Inevitably, you know, the programming, all that stuff is a lot of work. It would be easier to do that than to have a specialized robot. I think that's absolutely true. You know, you still, you know, throughout history, things that have made things easier for people have always spawned more jobs that require you to do more things. So, like, for instance, you don't have to throw your human waste into the street or, you know, bury it somewhere or do something crazy. You know, plumbing has made it infinitely easier to maintain your lifestyle, and it's made your life so much easier, but you got plumbers now. That was a job that just didn't exist, you know, 150 or so years ago. And that came about because we innovated and we changed things. And we now have this tech where you can do that, but you also require more people to do those sort of things.
Yes.
And that's pretty much true regardless, you know. Computers make a million things so much easier to do. You know, you can cut back on having like 1 billion accountants that are versed in all of these things, but you still need the programmers that understand. You still need tons of people to do that. So yes, the workforce changes.
The workforce evolves to work on much larger problems. So you don't have just a dude or an accountant that just crunches numbers because you're too stupid to crunch numbers yourself. You just have your computer. But then you have now a programmer who is capable of making innovative technology.
Yeah.
And that is a much better job to have than being a freaking accountant.
Not necessarily. I mean, some people genuinely enjoy accounting. Somehow. I don't understand these people, for the record, but
they don't have to be a programmer. Like, shitty example anyways. But
No, you're fine. You're fine, yeah.
It's that the technology allows us to move on to bigger and better things. I don't have to be a cashier if people can do self-checkout.
Right. I think the general consensus, though, is everyone hates self-checkout.
That's because
they want to interact with a human being.
Well, sure, but have you been to Japan and their automated stuff?
I would say that's because of the lack of young people. to be quite honest with you, I mean, you have an older populace that's aging, and you don't necessarily have the people to fill those jobs. It's a requirement that they automate because there are literally not enough young people.
And the society adapts and are totally fine and almost better because the machine can take your order correctly.
Right.
100% of the time.
Right. No. I definitely get what you mean, and I'm not saying it won't change. I'm not saying it won't innovate, but I'm saying even from a capitalist perspective, it makes sense to automate. It makes sense, you know. But I want to say that, you know, even then, you're still going to have someone maintain the machines, make sure everything's running. You've got to have that support group. You've got to have, after that, you have to have more people on the line to call if they ever have complaints or, you know, if you had a metaphorical McDonald's.
Whenever the machine becomes as smart as the human. Then the humans won't need other humans to do shitty things.
Here's the... and I guess this is going back to kind of why I brought up, you know, again, we're not necessarily speaking of the Venus Project, but your ideal society.
Yeah.
But kind of one of the points that I was thinking I might bring up is capitalism allows more choice. In the fact that not everything capitalism does is quote-unquote efficient. You know, importing something halfway across the world because you enjoy that product doesn't really make sense. You know, it doesn't make sense to eat avocados that are available in one time zone that go bad in like a week. It doesn't make sense to import that. It's an inefficient import, if you will, you know, because you can, it's like, you have food here that you can eat that's perfectly acceptable, but I like avocados. Yeah. I want an avocado. Sure. Why would I get an avocado in a system that is based solely off of efficiency if it is inefficient to bring me that avocado and there's no monetary gain to bringing me that avocado?
Because there's an excess in resources.
See, I don't see that as a real motivation, though, because if you're basing things off of, one, the environment, and two, off of the efficiency of the whole, you know, making sure everyone has just what they need and what they somewhat desire, not necessarily exactly everything they want. It doesn't make much sense to me to bring in a product that goes bad within a week on a ship that uses a ton of resources to get, unless somebody is paying for it.
In the same reason that a lot of people in this society with their excess of money go, because I can.
Yeah, no.
It's the same thing in a society that has an excess of resources to go, because we can. Because we have the resources available to do so.
I don't think that happens, though. I don't think in a system that is totally efficient that you would get that kind of choice, because it doesn't make sense to have, let's say, 5... I know I'm using car companies quite a bit here, but it doesn't make sense to have 5 car companies. It doesn't make sense to have that choice if you can have a centralized location, which just makes all of the cars.
No, you can just design your own car. They make a functioning thing, and also transportation and owning a car is preposterous in a technologically advanced society.
Okay. No, again, I like my freedom and I like my choice. I like to be able to drive somewhere anytime that I want. Whenever I want. Yeah, I can.
And you can in this society, too.
No, I gotta wait for the train.
You don't have to wait. Like, you underestimate how fucking good technology is.
I don't think so. But I think the individual serving the individual allows more choice and more flexibility than that. There's no reason to have a there's like Starbucks versus your local coffee place, you know.
Why not just have the coffee that you want and make the way that you want?
Why make multiple coffee if it's more efficient to simply make universal victory coffee?
You are assuming that you're assuming that because stuff becomes 100% efficient, that the individual goes away. And that is not what I'm saying.
But, well, I guess what I'm saying is capitalism allows for this kind of myriad of products that I know could not be possible under this collectivist system.
You can have a myriad of products because the resources are available.
There's not an infinite amount of resources, though.
There's not an infinite amount of resources here, and we still do it.
Right, because it's the spirit of competition and wishing to make a name for yourself or make money, etc., etc. Like there wouldn't be a Starbucks. My thought would be there wouldn't be a Starbucks at every corner. You would just go to the grocery store to purchase, or not purchase, but I guess, I don't know, do you have resource coin or something?
You can, like...
Surely there's a limit on... Surely there's a limit on what you can get.
Well, I mean... the limit...
There has to be a reasonable limit, like
the limiting is you going, I don't need this crap. And we do that now.
Yeah, because we don't want to spend our money on excessive crap.
No, we do it. Even super rich people go, I don't need that crap. And that's because their values are in a place where they realize that they don't need it, regardless of if they have the abundance of resources to acquire that. Their values are in a place to where I don't need this crap. You can have both. You can have an abundance of resources and values that say, I don't need an extreme excess of things. There's not, the two aren't mutually like.
Right. Well, no, I get what you mean. I'm just saying, I think your choice would be limited because it doesn't make sense to expend excess resources. Just like you were saying, there's limits on, the individual wishing to consume. There would absolutely be limits on what the collective would consume. I see that as a matter of fact. Like you're speaking of cars. There would be no.
Speaking of cars, huh? You're speaking of cars.
No. But I was referencing what you were saying. Like a technologically advanced society has no want of cars.
No, not a want of cars, but a technologically advanced society realizes that a human driving a car is incredibly dangerous. We already realize this now.
Yeah.
And so cars drive themselves because a computer can drive a billion times better than I can. I know that.
You were talking an automated system. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, no. I thought you meant like the mere concept of cars would disappear and we'd all just have like mass transit.
No.
Okay. I get you. I misread your thought there. My bad. Okay, yeah, no. And definitely now, I mean, it would be great to like be able to like go to the bar, do whatever, and
drink as much as you want. Just walk outside, and hop in a car, and it just takes you home.
Right.
That is what transportation would be in a technologically advanced society.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think that's heading here anyways. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely on its way now under our system.
Yeah.
I mean, you have corporations that are doing those sort of things these days.
Tesla cars already can drive themselves in certain places.
Yeah, and then there's Google as well, which is doing the same thing. It's kind of a neat race that's happening, which is going to totally change up the game.
Yeah. And so you're not skeptical about that technological advancement, but you're skeptical about other technological advances?
I'm not speaking of other technological advances. I guess the suggestion that I was attempting to make was that no matter what the technological increase, there will always be a necessity and I hate to use the word market, but a market to fill of people who are doing different jobs. Yes, the jobs change. Like, we're not farmers anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, 1% of the population in America are farmers. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure if you were to tell someone that, 200 years ago, they would have looked at you like, oh man, we must just be doing absolutely nothing these days. Like, there must be nothing going on. Like, everyone's just probably lazing about because everything's taken care of, right?
Yeah. But
then the jobs expand, and then there's more stuff, and there's more things to do perpetually. So
But the jobs would fall into much higher ideas, like developing a technology that can do this thing, or making, trying to imagine different ways to discover new elements or whatever. It's
and I get what you mean. There's going to be an increase no matter what the society in demand for educated individuals. As long as technology advances, there's going to be a demand for that. But my suggestion is that there will always be some facet that is just crappy labor.
Sure.
Quote unquote crappy labor.
But the crappy won't be a cashier because that is automated. Anything that can be automated will just be.
Which is fine, but...
And so the crappy labor would be like robot fixing technician, like...
Right, yeah. And I mean, maybe at that point, maybe it's like, oh, oh, good Lord, you're a robot technician. You lowly human being. I feel so bad for you.
No, the values should be in place that it's like, man, I'm so glad that this guy wants to be a robot fixing technician because I don't want to do that crap, and our robots need fixing.
Right, which I think... I guess my thought on that is, money allows... like being a cashier, being in these quote-unquote crappy jobs to be palatable.
It's palatable because you want to help.
I see. That's where I get to where I don't necessarily think that's possible, because
it's been possible through religion. Thousands of people have been brainwashed into thinking that whenever they die, they're going to go and meet a dude with a beard.
Yeah, no. But I think that's more like, I will arbitrarily abstain from eating crab because it's unholy. I think that's... You see a lot more of that than necessarily... I don't know. The world isn't full of Buddhist monks who are just, like, sitting around, waiting for enlightenment and doing, like, really mundane tasks all day.
Wait for enlightenment.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
I know.
Like, the world isn't... That idea really hasn't caught on as much as, I guess, that's possible. I think it takes a certain individual to be that kind of pious attitude. I don't think everyone can get onto that, like, level of piety. If you want to kind of equate, like, the labor of crap jobs with kind of its own sort of enlightenment philosophy.
But even still, not everyone would be a robot fixing technician.
Yeah, no.
Because there would be people who are like, I don't want to do that. I want to go to space. Like,
just imagining the robot technicians being basically monks. Like, it's just like... Yes.
Or they just feel like, I'm not really smart enough to, like, calculate the trajectory of going from here to one of Jupiter's moons. I'm just smart enough to fix a robot, which is quite a lot of...
No. But why do anything, I guess, in that society? If, other than the piety of work and the desire for the greater
piety of work, but like
the betterment of the whole. Other than the motivation to the betterment of the whole, why ever do anything in that society?
It's because stuff can be so much better, and that's cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not...
Or why does the scientist want to discover new things? Is it because it'll help the world, or is it because I don't know about things, so I want to find out?
Right. There's always the desire to explore and the want to see new things, but I think...
It would allow us to explore much more so.
But I don't think necessarily everyone's built to be a scientist. Not everyone's built to do things for the sake of doing things. There are plenty of people.
Then those people would be musicians or whatever.
I don't know. I mean,
other arts, obviously.
I see quite a few people that would just sit around and play video games all day or do nothing at all.
And that's not valued, and that is looked down upon. But now, and it would be looked down upon.
Right, but there's the real world consequence now of pulling that kind of lifestyle. Like, if you don't do anything, you don't have any money, you can't advance yourself at all. There's nothing nagging. I mean, there's always something nagging at the back of your mind that you aren't moving, you aren't bettering yourself. You don't have things because you haven't worked. You can't buy the things that you want, the things that you like, because there's no work that you've put in. There's no achievement, I guess. There's no...
Well, the search for achievement is still there.
No. But I'm saying there's nothing to get them up in the morning, I guess is what I'm saying. If everything is taken care is taken for you, why do anything? Because I know there's absolutely people who think that way. And you saw that under collectivists in the past. It's again the tragedy of the commons. Someone is taking too much and not putting enough in.
It's a desire to achieve.
You know, this is a bit off topic, but do you know early New England culture was actually very collectivist? Yeah, it was extremely...
continue.
Yeah, no, it was extremely collectivist because it's... and it stemmed from, the Christian ideals of the time. You help your fellow man, and you all as a group pull together and better the community. And that worked until it didn't.
Why didn't it?
Well, because people realized I don't have to do anything. I can just sit around. I don't want to work in the fields, so I'm not going to work in the fields if food is always there. And I will sit around and do nothing.
Okay.
Or less than, the very bare minimum amount of work.
Sure.
To make it. And that's a very inefficient system that causes issues when you have that kind of lack of motivation. And then later on, the ideology changed to more of an individualist approach. Like, if you want to eat, you're going to have to work. If you want to make, your life better, if you want to enjoy the goods, the fruits of other people's labor, you have to work.
Sure.
You have to put in a certain amount to gain a certain amount.
Sure.
And I think that's kind of the beauty of money, is you have that system there.
And there's lots of downsides.
Yeah, and I think that's more of the system that we have now. I don't think that's an inherent vice of money. I think, when people say like something like, the root of all evil is money, it's like, no, money is simply a resource used by man. And the root of all evil is man, and he just happens to be using money to do bad things that they already wish to be.
I would just rather live in a better world where people aren't killing each other for money.
Yep.
Rather than, like...
Right, no. And I think, not to interrupt your thought there, but, I think a lot of, on our off-mic conversation there, I think a lot of the issue that we had discussing was... What you're suggesting is, in theory, perfect, quote unquote. Like,
no.
It's a system that would lead to, that zero point of quote unquote perfection that's impossible and intangible. And it's really hard to say I want peace. I want the world to be a better place. I want things to go well for humanity. I want all of those things too. I just don't see it working in your sort of setting. I don't see people pulling together like that. I think people are short-sighted and self-interested more than they are long-sighted and interested in the betterment of the whole. So I think it's beneficial and worthwhile to work with people's inherent flaws. I would rather work with their inherent flaws to cause the betterment of the whole than to hope for their inherent virtue to cause the betterment of the whole. If that makes sense.
There is information that states otherwise, and that view of human nature is not as accurate as you might think.
Go ahead.
Well, I can't quite go ahead.
Okay. No, you're good.
Yeah, but there's information that says otherwise, that humans are a little bit more than that selfish kind.
I'm not suggesting that people are all inherently just awful, terrible things in any sort of way. Yeah.
But just because we can't achieve perfection doesn't mean that we shouldn't strive towards it.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm not suggesting that as either.
That just because, this society is really, really hard to achieve and perfection is impossible, so just don't go for it.
No. Okay.
Instead, we should just go for it. It would be very, very hard to do so, But the benefits from doing so, from attempting to achieve perfection and continuing to strive towards perfection, are much greater benefits regardless of if we ever even actually achieve quote-unquote perfection.
Right. And I guess my stance on that is humanity, just point of fact, as a whole, because of the amount of people that are out there, is unreliable.
Sure.
And I would much rather work within the bounds of slight flaws. You know, make the flaws good.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Is make a society in which someone's flaws can be turned into a virtue. The poor sides of humanity, the lesser sides, are flipped. So instead of being something that is seen as bad, seen as awful, is turned into something beneficial for the group, for everyone. Whereas I believe that the system that you have proposed relies very heavily on the virtue of people doing the right thing. It's very dependent on people doing the right thing most of the time, if not all of the time. And I don't think that's a reliable system to maintain, ever.
People aren't as reliable technology is. And that's the like the add-on that makes it work. That's why Marxism didn't work out, is because it didn't implement technology. That's where I'll leave it off.
Okay.
Okay. We started in the middle of a conversation. This is Caleb. Hi, Caleb.
Hello.
I'm Santiago Ramones. Hello, and again, welcome to Bit Depth. So yeah, this is a fun thing. Once again, you're going to be a writer someday, and we'll know about that whenever that happens. And I'm very excited to see what comes out of that, because, as I stated before in the last podcast, you have some really good ideas, and that'll be fun. I'm excited to have you on in the future and have other conversations with you and probably some other people in a group. So I don't think you have any like social media you want to
No.
Is there any quick advice that you're like, hey, everyone should do this or something?
Yeah. I think everyone should take care of themselves first and foremost.
Cool. And then, yeah, so thank you for listening. Love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong.